Welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Lima, but first are the headlines. 2013 peace deal has not helped deal with growing security threats in the region, says Museveni. Street preachers given 30 days to vacate Kampala. President Uhuru Kenyatta endorses Raila Odinga in upcoming presidential elections. First ever corporate league female chairperson, Akelo eyes increased teams on board. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has said that the regional oversight mechanism of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework has not worked well to deal with the growing security threats in the Great Lakes region. We have more. While addressing the 10th Heads of State Summit of the Regional Oversight Mechanism of Addis Ababa Framework Agreement in DRC capital, Kinshasa, President Museveni, who took pride of being among one of the most indigenous groups in the Great Lakes, termed as ideological bankruptcy the thinking that the groups causing insecurity in the region don't belong here. Museveni said that in the Great Lakes, they know the people who live there since time immemorial, knowing well the ones who live in the grasslands, in the mountains and forest regions. The Ugandan president, who is also the outgoing chairman of the summit, said this has led to mishandling of security, causing suffering and displacement. According to Museveni, however, the groups causing insecurity in the Great Lakes region can all be defeated from what he has observed in the last 60 years. He said that this problem of insecurity in Africa, which is becoming bigger and bigger, can be defeated, and cited elders like Mwalimu Nyerere of Tanzania, Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia, and others with the friendly fighters from Angola, Mozambique, South Africa, Zimbabwe, who defeated bigger problems. The president saluted DRC President Felix Tshisekedi for cooperating to eliminate the ADF rebel group. At the same summit, Uganda's President Museveni handed over chairmanship of the mechanism to the Democratic Republic of Congo's Felix Tshisekedi's Shilombo. East African countries are said to hold joint military drills to be held in the Ugandan city of Jinja later this year. The drills that will attract over 1,500 participants from the military, police and civilian components for the East African community member states will be held as part of the 12th EAC field training exercise scheduled for May and June.
While opening the planning conference for the drills, the UPDF Chief of Personnel and Administration, Major General George Igumba, reiterated Uganda's commitment towards the successful hosting of the exercise. Major General Igumba said that the exercise will go a long way in enabling us to build synergies that will govern and strengthen the strategic vision of the leaders for the good of the people of East Africa. Colonel Raphael Kiptu, who represented the East African Community Secretary General, said the general objective of the ESC exercises is to enhance the state of readiness and interoperability of partner state armed forces, police, civilian components and other stakeholders in responding to complex security challenges. The chairperson of the planning conference, Brigadier General Jerry Correll, called upon members to put in maximum effort, energy, commitment and perseverances so that by the end of the conference, they are able to produce the required documents for the final planning conference. The three-day conference is also being attended by the defense liaison officers of the East African states, defense attaches accredited to Uganda, general and senior officers, representatives from the police, prisons, immigration and civilian components. The drills are to attract 1,500 participants who will be held between May 17th and June 16th, 2022 in the districts of Jinja, Mayuge and Buyukwe.
The resident city commissioner of Kampala capital city, Hudu Hussein, has given street preachers in Kampala a 30 days ultimatum to leave the streets. We have more on this report.
Speaking to journalists at the Uganda Media Center in Kampala, Hussein said that in his bid to build a nicer, organized city, there will be no room for seriousness. Hussein said that he had given the good pastors, whom they love so much, an amnesty of 30 days so that they evacuate the streets because they want a more serious city. To say this, Hussein was presenting what he called the 7 new measures which aim at sanitizing Kampala city. The RCC also unveiled plans to have all border riders registered, main buildings in the city center painted and lighted up, plus new measures on buildings that are still aiding street vendors. He warned that no stone will be left unturned in a bid for a cleaner city. The RCC's directive brought about mixed reactions, as some said it was long overdue, while others, who consisted of street preachers, warned the RCC to tread carefully. Godfrey Kutesa said that the RCC Hood Hussein might have touched the wrong kind of button and can't threaten the gospel of the Lord, and those who spread it threaten that the 30 days might end up being his.
Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. President Uhuru Kenyatta officially endorsed longtime rival Raila Odinga on Wednesday. During an address before his Jubilee Party supporters on Wednesday, President Kenyatta said Odinga meant well for the country.
President Kenyatta urged leaders from central Kenya to cast their ballot for 77-year-old Odinga. Presidential elections are set for 9th August. It will be the 5th time Mr. Odinga runs for president. He will vie for the presidency as the Azimio La Umoja Alliance preferred candidate. The alliance is made up of parties such as Mr. Kenyatta's Jubilee Party and now Mr. Odigan's Orange Democratic Movement. The president's endorsement of Raila Odinga further isolates Deputy President William Ruto, who will run as the United Democratic Alliance nominee.
A UN expert on Thursday urged Sudanese forces to stop firing live ammunition and tear gas at anti-coup protesters in a crackdown that has killed more than 80 people. Sudanese authorities have said they arrested several police and soldiers who fired at demonstrators with Kalashnikov rifles disobeying orders. Demonstrations have continued in the Northeast African country since Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan led a military takeover on October 25th, sparking international condemnation and suspension of aid. The past derailed a fragile power-sharing agreement between the army and civilians negotiated after the 2019 ouster of longtime autocrat Omar al-Bashir. The United Nations expert Adama Dieng said that firing live ammunition on the people is a huge violation against human rights and was concerned at the death toll, which stands at 82 and 2,000 wounded. Both the UN and the United States have made similar appeals before, with Washington threatening further consequences if violence continues. The Senegalese envoy has been in Sudan for the past 4 days, meeting with leaders, diplomats, and civil society members in a bid to shed light on the crackdown. Dieng also expressed concern about sexual violence and ongoing raids against anti-coup groups, as well as the fate of around 100 detainees who have never met their lawyers. Away from that, the party of the overthrown president of Burkina Faso, Roch Marc Christian Kabore, said on Wednesday that it was concerned and asked the junta that took power to release him without delay or conditions 1 month after his arrest on 24th January in Ouagadougou.
According to the party's president, Alassane Bala Sakanda, in a public statement on the national situation, the People's Movement for Progress invited the new authorities of Burkina Faso to release President Roch Marc Christian Kabore without delay or conditions. A statement released on Wednesday indicated his party is worried and questioned the reasons for keeping Mr. Kabore under house arrest, who has been moved several times with increasingly harsh conditions of detention. The former ruling party also called on the head of the junta, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, to keep the commitments he has made to ensure that the fundamental rights of every citizen are respected. On the day of the coup and his arrest on 24th January, Kabore was placed under house arrest in a ministerial villa in the Waga 2000 district, where he had received leaders of his party and members of an international delegation that had come to Ouagadougou shortly after the push. The release of the overthrown president has also been demanded by the UN, the African Union, and the Economic Community of West African States.
An envoy from West Africa's regional bloc arrived in Mali on Thursday, according to the media, for talks with the military junta over restoring civilian rule in the volatile country. A document from an ECOWAS technical committee proposes that Mali stage an election within 12 or 16 months. Former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, representing the 15-nation economic community of West African states, is due to meet junta officials in the capital Bamako, including the leader Colonel Assimi Goïta. Mali, a conflict-ridden Sahel nation of 21 million, is governed by a junta that seized power in August 2020 and has so far resisted international pressure to swiftly restore civilian rule. On Tuesday, Jonathan urged Mali to transition towards a democracy as soon as possible, describing the country's government as an aberration. He made the comments a day after Mali's army-dominated legislature approved a bill allowing the junta to rule for up to 5 years. Jonathan suggested on Tuesday that the time frame was unacceptable, adding that they are going to negotiate further with them and see that they must reduce it. Mali's army ousted elected President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta after weeks of protests fueled by frustrations over perceived government corruption and an ongoing jihadist conflict. Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, Rubaga Division has moved ahead of the other divisions in Kampala in sensitizing border cyclists ahead of the ambitious zonal reorganization of the industry in Kampala.
The resident city commissioner for Rubaga Division, Anderson Burora, said the registration is to protect the border industry from infiltration of suspected terrorists and criminals. On the first day of the sensitization, the cyclists gathered at Busega, where they were sensitized about the opportunities that come with their registration. KCCA has set June 31st as deadline for the registration of the borders. The first sensitization meetings kicked off yesterday in Rubaga and were embraced by dozens of cyclists operating there who turned up in big numbers. Burora said that the registration of borders will help in the fight of crime. Under the zonal reorganization of borders, cyclists will be restricted to their areas of residence. Cyclists in each of Kampala's 5 divisions will have a reflector jacket with a color code, photograph of the cyclist and a security code. Some of the cyclists and users in Rubaga welcomed the new development, saying it will weed out criminals from the industry.
In our health news today, disabled Burundians no longer need to buy foreign prostheses that are often very expensive. The Patrick Ngonga Foundation manufactures splints and other orthopedic support devices. We have more on this story. A revolution is underway for disabled people in Burundi, where the Patrick Ngonga Foundation provides crutches, splints, prostheses, and other orthopedic support devices. Founder Mr. Ngonga suffered an accident during his childhood that impacted his sciatic nerve and left him handicapped. After 3 years spent in Japan to study prosthetics and orthotics, he is back in Burundi with the goal of helping fellow disabled citizens. On the national level, associations gathering disabled people have witnessed the positive impact of the foundation. Eugene Nsabayezu, the president of the National Paralympic Committee, explained that most disabled people come from poor families and cannot afford prostheses or any orthopedic support. Only one rehabilitation center existed before the Patrick Ngonga Foundation was launched. The few people who could afford the prostheses had to pay out some $5,000. If the exact number of disabled people in the Southern African country isn't known, And finally, in our sports news, Diana Mutu Akelo is the first ever woman to take over the leadership of the corporate league. She replaced Boaz Nabimanya, who served during the 2020-2021 in an epoch that was decimated by the coronavirus pandemic. Akelo targets increment on the number of companies taking part in the corporate league.
In the 20 years existence of the corporate league, Diana Mutu Akelo is the first female chairperson. She said that she is going to work hand in hand with her colleagues to see that they improve the league and will start by increasing the number of companies. The league organizers will issue licenses to all players that will play in the league, and points will be deducted from teams using illegal players. This year will mark 20 years of the corporate league, which was first played in 2002 but skipped both the 2020 and 2021 editions due to COVID-19. All participants are supposed to have been fully vaccinated and follow the standard operating procedures while on the field. Former league chairman Julius Rete handed over administrative documents to Akelo. Rete is now the vice chairperson. In this year's league, football, athletics, and volleyball are the games to be played. The first outing will be at Chambogo University on Sunday, 27 February 2022. At least 70 corporate companies have confirmed this year's championship that marks 20 years of the corporate league.
That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.